Well, that was an unmitigated disaster. No, actually, I don't think I'm exaggerating. An unmitigated disaster is precisely the correct term. Well, let's go over again what happened, shall we? We're here at this conference for an exchange of knowledge between royalty and nobility from other nations. A fair and equal exchange. As the director of the conference said, everyone here is on equal footing. And it only took one person to say, "Oh, someone here doesn't have feet," for everyone to decide that I can't be taken seriously. Anytime I said anything at all, I was met with some sort of pun about snakes. Ugh, like those don't get used every day. It's only the first day of the conference, and already racism has taken root here. If this isn't an unmitigated disaster, I shudder to imagine what you think qualifies. I'm sorry I snapped at you. It's just humbling, I suppose. It makes me realize how fortunate I was to meet the exact people I did. People who were either open-minded enough to accept Lamia as a business partner, or greedy enough to be more interested in how I can make them rich. I almost forgot that luck had as much to do with my success as skill. That's very flattering of you to say. You know, there are wealthy people who pay their servants to make them say such things to them like that, all the time. You might be better off leaving with one of those other nobles. Being a Lamia and a human part of the world is always going to leave me at a disadvantage. No, you're right. I shouldn't say that. I'm happy to have you in my employ, and I'm more than capable of providing for your needs. I'm just so discouraged now. At any rate, I think the obvious thing for me to do is leave. Well, what other choice do I have? Nobody's taking me seriously, and I can't contribute in any way. And if I simply sit there and listen the whole time, they'll just gossip about me being careless and useless. Oh, believe me, gossip matters quite a bit. Especially when it's between the powerful people assembled here. Reputation is crucial for nobility, and it's difficult enough for me to maintain mine without exposing myself to something like this. Fine. That's reasonable, I suppose. There's no reason to leave this very second. It would be better if we start our journey in the morning. Turn things around. Well, I certainly do envy your optimism. It couldn't hurt to consider it. That is true. Turn things around. How would I go about doing that? I can't do it on my own. A single noble simply can't demand that they be acknowledged. I'd be seen as childish, and it would have the exact opposite effect of what I'm after. Ideally, I need an ally. Someone who can back me. It could be as simple as having them ask if I could be allowed to continue after being interrupted. Polite and non-confrontational, but that would stop those ignoramuses in their tracks. They wouldn't do it again without being seen as boorish. The problem is finding such an ally. It's rotten luck that no one I know is attending this conference. I'd need someone on my side immediately. Another day of this, and it would be disastrous for my reputation. I need to relax for a while, and I can't think like this. Servant, go down to the kitchens and fetch me some tea, will you? You know the kind I like. No wine. I need to be completely sound of mind for this. You were gone quite a while. Surely you couldn't have gotten that lost. Oh, you look very pleased with yourself. What's all that about? I'm not sure I understand. You think you found an ally, as in... Really? On your own? And so soon? What exactly happened? And who is it? Lady Matriel. Yes, I believe I've heard of her. A noble from... I cannot for the life of me remember which country it is. I know it's part of the Eastern Kingdom's alliance. If I recall correctly, she was instrumental in the alliance's formation. And wait, are you saying she wants to help? What did you say to her? That's certainly straightforward, I suppose. Why did you choose her? Did you even know who she was? Kind eyes. Not usually the best way to judge a person's character, but she is highly respected and well known as a wise and just woman. So, who am I to argue with such good results? Did she tell you which room she's staying in? I assume she's interested in meeting with us. Fantastic. This should work nicely. Oh, of course, the tea. Thank you. That couldn't have been easy for you. Approaching a perfect stranger who's certainly rich and powerful, and asking for a favor? It takes a great deal of bravery to do what you did. Thank you. You know, this reminds me of something. A challenge I faced earlier in my career, and one that proved to be extremely important to my success. In those days, I had just been put in charge of my first caravan. However, calling it a caravan was generous. It was 2 medium-sized wagons. Of course, the only reason I was put in charge was so I could create a regular trade route with my Lamia kin in the desert. You'll recall they wouldn't allow humans unless they were accompanied by a Lamia. As much as I complain about the closed-mindedness of humans, my own kind are potentially worse. I always knew that law would be problematic, and my presence couldn't always be guaranteed, especially if I wanted to have more than one caravan. I needed to change Lamia law to allow humans in unaccompanied, if I wanted to have any real success in my new career. Which isn't something easily done. Lamias are ruled by matriarchs. In this case, the title is quite literal. A single Lamia matriarch can be responsible for birthing hundreds of children. It might have been easier if I could strike a deal with my own mother, but she lived deep in the desert. We needed a deal with a matriarch who lived near the border. She alone would have the authority to decide who enters. But it's dangerous to question a matriarch's decision, especially for a Lamia as young as I was. It was terrifying, to say the least. My whole upbringing, and even my very instincts, told me not to do it. But to my surprise, the matriarch was amused by my boldness, and intrigued by the advantages my deal offered. I suppose I'm telling you this to say that you remind me of myself. And in some ways, you're stronger than I was. My future depended on seeking favors from powerful people. You don't have stakes that are quite so high, but you could have easily just followed my orders. You wouldn't have been any worse off if you hadn't approached Lady Matriel. So, thank you, my servant. You're proving yourself worthy at every turn. Ever since your very first day where you passed my test. You have a very bright future ahead of you. Now, come along. We must go meet the lady.